Pull up a chair and buckle up. It's the Original Strength BodCast.
Hey guys, and welcome to this week's edition of the Original Strength BodCast. Before we get started, I want to share this week's simple pleasure. I have discovered a new kind of peanut butter called Big Spoon Bourbon Pecan Peanut Butter. And I don't know if this is available where you live, but in North Carolina, this is a thing. And I got to tell you, it's ridiculously good. Also, it's made out of high oleic peanuts, which means that they're supposed to be high in monosaturated fat. I don't know if that's true or not, but it makes me think that it's even healthier because, man, this stuff tastes like, well, kind of tastes like candy, and I like it. So it brings me joy. Anyway, that's my big simple pleasure for this week. Also, coming up, we're already in April of 2025, and May is just around the corner. May's actually a really big month for me. I turned 50 on May 1st, May Day, Tim's 50. And my wife actually turns 50 on April 20th. And so you know what that means. It means for 10 days out of the year, I get to be married to a cougar. Um, that always makes me laugh when I say that, but my wife absolutely hates it. So please do me a favor and don't tell her that I actually said that. But we turned 50 in just a few weeks. And then I in May 18th, I get to go to Sorenex's Summer Strong, and I get to be a presenter there, and that is such a huge honor because I am standing with some giants on that will be presenting there, and I've wanted to present at Summer Strong for years, and I actually get to this year, and man, I cannot be more excited. Uh, 3 days after that, though, I'm actually going to be flying to Japan to get to teach original strength pro reset and original strength performance. So this is really May is a big month. Matter of fact, it's so big that June's gonna be a resting month. Anyway, all right, we got a really good Q&A this week, and it comes from Justin. And Justin writes, Tim, there's lots of focus currently on resistance training for general awesomeness as you age, which seems to be the consensus position. I agree. Um, However, there's lots of differing opinions as to whether or not you need external load for health and awesomeness as you age. I also agree. And is calisthenics and original strength alone enough, or do you need to hoist iron? And if you do hoist iron, is sprinkling in loaded carries, loaded crawling, and rucking enough, or is that good enough? I'm going to get to the end on that. Loaded carries, loaded rocking, or loaded crawling, and those are always good. So you always have my blessing to do those. I think those are always a good call. I love loaded gait pattern work. I think it's just phenomenal for the brain and the body, and I think it really gives you access to your strength. And that's my point. I think, Justin, what people really need as they age is access to their strength. I actually wrote a book about this called A Simple Book of Strength, but we all have amazing strength potential in our bodies, but we just don't all have access to it. And the way we get access to it is to live in our design or press reset. Basically, what that means is we need to breathe the way we're designed to breathe. We need to activate our vestibular system often, and we need to engage in our full gait pattern often. And if we do those three things, we're pressing reset on our nervous system. More importantly, we're telling our brain everything's okay, and we're letting our brain know where everything in our body is at. And it allows our brain to feel safe, so it doesn't feel like it needs to inhibit our body from expressing itself. What that means to us is that when we live in our design, our brain feels safe enough to let us express ourselves with full strength potential. Um, so, again, we all have an enormous amount of strength in our bodies. We just don't have access to it. And I think as we age, what we really need is access to our strength. So there is no better time. You know, all of us live in our design when we're born, and then we just kind of grow further away from it through life. We live in a sedentary world. We've got technology. We've got conveniences. We have distractions. So we don't necessarily live in our design as we get older. But as we get older is the time that we really need and could benefit from living in our design. So my first thing would be, you know what? Learn how to breathe. Remember how to breathe, how you're designed to breathe. And again, if you don't know, in and out through your nose, tongue on the roof of your mouth, filling your lungs up from the bottom to the top. Just do that, that will change your life for the better forever. And it will also give you so much more access to the strength that you already possess inside your body. Now, I think Justin's real question is do we need to lift weights? Um, Maybe. I don't think it's a bad idea. Now, can we get bigger and stronger without lifting weights? Yes, I do believe that is the case also. So I think that's going to come down to what floats your boat. If you live in your design and you establish a solid foundation of reflexive strength, which means that you have access to your strength, and then you want to stack strength up on top of that, man, I think that's probably the bee's knees. And I do think that you can develop a beautiful body through calisthenics. I think you can develop a beautiful body just focusing on OS or loading the resets, like loaded carries, loaded crawling, things like that. I do think you can sculpt a beautiful body that way. But there may be limits on to how big you can get that body to be. And again, as you age, I mean, this is going to be a personal preference thing. Like how strong do you need to be? Um, and again, I don't think there's anything wrong with being as strong as possible. So, because having strength really never hurt anybody. The pursuit of strength, however, has hurt a lot of people. But again, if you have access to your strength and a foundation of reflexive strength, pursuing strength is really can be more beneficial than detrimental. So I think again, your foundation should be living in your design, which means pressing reset, having OS, and then choosing either calisthenics or weight training to build strength on top of that. And if you want to get like hypertrophy, like really get bigger, I think weightlifting is actually the lowest hanging fruit on that because it is easier. It's very easy to add weight to the bar. so and create volume that way. Once you get really good at like after you can do 100 Hindu squats or 200 or 300 or 400 or 500, like how much is enough again? Like I'm always wondering the question, like how much is enough? How much is enough in volume? How much is enough in weight? Right? So only you can answer that question for you. But I don't know that I've never actually gained any size from doing like say 200 Hindu squats to doing 500 to 700 or 800 or more Hindu squats. My legs are what they are from doing that much volume. And I have the endurance. I've got great endurance, but that doesn't mean I'm gonna ever squat 600 pounds. Not that I need to. I'm just saying that you can only add so much load though with body weight. Now you can get clever and you can wear weight vests and things like that, and you can make things harder. And that's where I think the fun of training comes in. Like, like what can I do? Could I do this thing? Can I move slower? Can I move faster? But I do think that from a size hypertrophy standpoint, it is easier probably to lift weights to get there than it is to do calisthenics. Again, I'm going to tell you, I totally believe you can build a beautiful body with calisthenics and original strength. Absolutely. And I think you can be as strong as you want to be, strong enough to live your life well. But if you want that extra protection and extra insurance of having extra muscle, I think weight training is great, especially on top of a solid foundation of original strength or living in your design. Now, but here's the real thing, like, and I think this is what people may miss because there's so much talk in the longevity world now about longevity, but it's about what we eat and how we eat and like should we undereat to live longer or should we fast or there's all these questions about how we're supposed to eat, especially if we want to live a longer life like the folks in the blue zones. And I think maybe it just gets kind of convoluted or like just it gets kind of chaotic because have you ever considered that if you undereat to live a long time, but you consistently undereat, and again, this is going to be, well, what does undereating mean? But if you're always undereating, and it's always pointed out that the people in the blue zones they're thin, they don't have a lot of excess body weight or even excess muscle, right? So, well, if we undereat, it's going to be hard to build muscle. So I think how we eat is going to either take the lid off of what our body can do, how our body can grow and express itself in ultimate strength and size, or it's going to put the lid on it. I don't see. It doesn't make sense to me how you can consistently undereat but build muscle and especially build muscle size. And then that's the other thing. Like, so if you're going to put in the work to get stronger and to get bigger, then you also have to put in the fuel that allows your body to the resources to build that muscle, that either in size or strength. So the harder you work to maintain your muscle mass or to build new muscle mass or to get access to your strength, you also have to remember that the nutrition side of it is well, I have to feed my body to actually repair itself so that it can grow stronger and bigger and have that extra insurance of more muscle. So I think that's often missed. Like, everybody's worried about sarcopenia, but then we're also always in the same sentences often talking about, intermittent fasting or fasting for longevity for to get our autophagy so that our body renews itself. But like, if we're really talking about building muscle, I think we have to really talk about eating more. Now, if if you're overweight, then you have excess energy stored. So maybe you don't have to eat more, a surplus of calories, but you may have to eat more protein to fuel the efforts of the training that you're doing to build your muscle and your strength. But if you're already lean, you're going to have to eat a lot of protein, but create a surplus too to give your body the resources to grow, and to build that muscle. Muscle is made out of protein, so it's going to take more protein probably than you're currently getting in if you're trying to grow stronger and bigger. Just a thought. I think it's really easy to miss that part of the equation when it comes to aging and building muscle, especially when a lot of the aging conversations are eating less, under eating, and fasting. Um, I'm not quite sure about that. I'm just at this point thinking out loud to you. But again, Justin, I think is a great question. I don't think you have to lift weights to get stronger. I think there can be cases where it's easier to lift weights to build size, to put on mass. But in the absence of food and feeding the efforts that you're doing, I think that it's going to be hard. Um, it's going to be hard gainers to get that exercise and strength, no matter if you're doing calisthenics or weight training. Guys, that's it for this week. That's the Q&A. I hope that was somewhat helpful. Uh, and if you can't find Big Spoon Bourbon Pecan Peanut Butter, I really apologize, but because you're missing out, and that's a shame. All right, kids, that's it for this week's podcast. I'm Tim with Original Strength, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening, everyone. Now go, press reset, and then get outside and play.